Alrighty, class. Welcome to another episode of our guest speaker series. We have a special guest for you all today. We have Mr. Jordan Ellis. Jordan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Jordan Ellis. Currently, I'm a field service engineer with General Motors. I've been in this position for the last 4 years. Prior to this, I was a technical training instructor with Chrysler for roughly 4 years, and then prior to that, I was a technician in Missouri, actually, for 4 years before that. I had my bachelor's degree from Pittsburgh State University in automotive technology, and wife, one kid, family man, love to golf, that's pretty
Yeah.
much all of my hobbies.
Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time out to speak with our students today. I'm really actually excited of the number of automotive students that I have been seeing coming through taking the course. So I love for them to see the representation that we have in today's guest speaker video. Some of the last couple of assignments that we've been having in our industrial communication course has really been surrounding grammar, and writing skills. And I've been trying to explain to our students that writing and grammar and the importance of their words goes beyond just what they typically think that it would, right? Like, I understand they're not a philosophy major. I understand they're not English majors. And writing is not something they're like, I'm going to be an automotive technician and I can't wait to go and write a report today, right? Like, I understand
Yeah,
that that is not what they are signing up to do. But can you kind of explain and talk about how the importance of having that skill and how even they use writing in the particular field?
absolutely. So, um, in the job as a technician, you need to be able to effectively communicate what you are doing um, in the repair order. So, in order for you to get a warranty claim processed, in order for you to communicate effectively when you're reaching out for help, you need to be able to articulate what you've done and then put it into complete sentences. Stuff like, when you're measuring a circuit, let's say, and you check resistance on a circuit, and you just say tested circuit good. That doesn't tell us a whole lot, right? So what was the resistance value you checked? How did you check it? Where did you put your leads? What document in service information were you using? What were you following? Were you following step 10 or step 11? How were you doing this? And so the more information that you can provide, the more descriptive you can be, the better in this field, because when something does go wrong, the more you have documented, the better your story is, and the better we can, quicker, I should say, we can reach a resolution to that.
Yeah, I love that. I love for them. I love for our students to really understand how their words matter, and how taking their time to really make sure that they're not just doing a great job with their hands-on skills, but the soft skills of taking their time to fill out that report, providing that kind of detail is also important. We've also talked a lot about how hard skills is what helps you get your foot in the door to get that interview, right? But the soft skills is really what helps you progress and keep that job going and opens the door to more opportunities. Can you kind of speak on how that can really help somebody progress along in their career?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in the dealership space, when you write a good story, when you're able to tell a story about what you did, it does a couple of things. So, one, it allows you to effectively communicate what you've done to the service advisor, to the person who's going to be communicating with the customer. And our customers, they're pretty smart. They understand, when somebody's just giving them the runaround. And so the more that you can communicate with the customer, the more you can communicate with the service advisor, let's say, the better that service advisor is equipped to answer questions that the customer may or may not have. And so in that case, the more that you can communicate, the better the service advisor is, the better the service advisor is able to then sell the service. Or say if it's a safety issue, the service advisor is able to go and say, hey, this is a safety concern. You're going to need to be able to drive this. My technician is telling me this. And you're going to need this to be able to safely drive your vehicle and drive home that point. And so in that case, it generates sales revenue for the dealership as well. And so that in that case, when you're making more money for the dealer, you're creating more hours, you are going to start progressing in your career at that point. And so the more you do better, of course, you're going to start to move up at that point. You're going to kind of start being the go-to guy. You're going to start going to more training classes. You're going to get your training, or you get all of your certifications, the training with the manufacturer specifically. And then at that point, you're going to start to become the master technician. And then, if you write a good enough story, when you do run into a roadblock to where you do need help, and you create a technical assistance case, communicating what you've done with the technical guys seems to be a little bit easier because they speak the same language, they understand the technical stuff. So putting as much detail in as possible is needed. And then when the technical assistant reads that case, then they can say, okay, well, this technician has done a lot. We can bypass a lot of time and we can save a lot of time. And that's really what we're trying to do here as technicians is we want to save time. We don't want the customer, for one, does not want to even be in the service drive. They don't like being there. They don't want to bring their vehicle in, right? It's always a bad experience from the get-go, right? And so we want to make that experience minimized, and we want to make it smooth. And so if you get the vehicle in, and let's say you communicate with tech, and you don't tell, or technical assistance, let me not do any GM abbreviations here, but if you communicate with technical assistants and you just give them a little bit of what you've done, well, technical assistants is going to come back and say, okay, well, I see you've done this. I want you to go test this now. But you might have already tested that, or you might have done it a different way and been able to come to that conclusion already of what they're asking you to do. And so effectively communicating the story of what you've done from the get-go really streamlines the process, and it allows us to diagnose these vehicles faster and get the vehicles back to the customer on a quicker as well. Right. So on top of that, also, when you write a story, the story, and it's a warranty ticket, let's say, your story is then going to go to a warranty admin after you're done with the repair. And the warranty admin at the dealership is going to read your story and then effectively submit that warranty claim. And a lot of times we see that the story is not written in. It's kind of, especially on the harder ones, the story is not written very well. The claim can get kicked back. And so the more claims you have kicked back as a technician for not writing a good story, the less hours you make and the more difficult the process is for the dealership. It's really not a good look for the technician. And so being able to communicate in this job is incredibly important.
I love that. I love that you're even explaining the consequence side, right? How they're just the starting point, and that can definitely there's a ripple effect. And if they were to do that job and create that efficiency from the beginning, that like you said, the whole streamlined process makes it easier for eventually who we're trying to please is that customer. So I love that. I love that. I want them to see how that follow through can definitely help everyone in the long run, including themselves. I love that. Is there any other tips that you would like for students to hear or understand, and really make sure that they're taking that particular portion seriously when they're taking courses like mine that help them sharpen those soft skills?
I would say just learn to be overly descriptive in everything that you do. That is the key. Try to describe simple things 3 or 4 or 5 different ways, and that's going to make you a better communicator and really a better educator when you get to that level. If you can describe the way the sun looks in 7 different ways, you're going to be able to describe, how you tested a circuit every which way, and you're going to be able to save a lot of time. And I've spoke with a lot of technicians in my career. I was a technician. We really don't like doing things twice. That's the thing. We don't like to do a job twice. We don't like to do tests twice. We like to, once we figure that out, or once we see that, we don't ever want to do it again, right? On the same vehicle, I should say, the same vehicle. And so when you can communicate effectively, you can essentially streamline that process and not have to do things twice, because you didn't communicate it correctly. And so when I'm looking at a case, like let's say, and I don't see that you've done something, but you actually have, then we need to be able to skip that so we can just move on to the next point to, like I said, get the customer their vehicle back. That's the main goal.
I love that. In fact, you saying that has like sparked different ideas of how I can push that creativity for them to start thinking of that. So I love that because you're even encouraging me to teach that better, to help them understand that better. So thank you for that because I understand in the profession that I'm in why that's important, but I understand that our students who go into these fields, that's not something that they're thinking about that is so important about how that could be an important aspect of their job. So I appreciate you reminding students, and whether I have a welding student or a diesel student or an automotive student, I feel that that is a lesson that they can take within their industrial field.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, so I thank you for that. I tend to not like my videos too short because me and you both know that our students are very busy. And so capturing their attention is always something that I am trying to strive for. But I feel as though that we have discussed very important topics here, and I feel like our students are going to take away a vast amount of information from what you've discussed with them today. I really appreciate you giving us an inside look on what that is like from your side. Is there any last words you'd like to share with our students?
I would say do the best that you can to learn all of the technical terms that there are. Um, when we talk about, let's just say like a DVOM, a digital volt ohm meter, right? So that is a meter. So a lot of times it's referred to as a meter. There's different brands like Fluke. So a lot of people will say, well, it's a Fluke meter, ohms, resistance, stuff like that. That technical terms, if you don't understand what they mean and their interchangeability, a lot of times that can lead to some confusion. So like one is like parasitic drain, parasitic draw, battery draw. There's a bunch of different ways to say the same thing. The battery's going dead, essentially in that case. So learn to know what the technical terms are in whatever field that you're in across platforms. One that my biggest pet peeve is when people call refrigerant Freon. So Freon is a
Oh,
brand of refrigerant. It's not refrigerant. So like for AC systems.
Jordan, I'm guilty of that. I will not do that again.
Yeah, well, it's okay. But it is just one of my pet peeves. So we call it refrigerant, right? So that is the proper way of saying it because Freon is a brand. It was a very popular brand, which is why it's common to say that. But anyways, just know the technical terms and know the difference between the two. And that way, when you are writing your stories or you're reading a response from technical assistants or from me, that you understand what they are trying to say as well and you don't get confused.
I love that. I think that's great advice. And again, transferable and no matter what field they go into. So that is really good. You've taught me so much today in this short amount of time that we spent together. So I really, again, I thank you for your time today, Jordan. And I feel like our students are definitely taking a lot away from today's session in this guest speaker series. So thank you so much again.
Absolutely. Happy to help.
All righty. So